Oh my god, this could replace my fail to ban and my reverse proxy. You've got to check this out. What if I told you that you could replace your reverse proxy, fail to ban, and improve your Homelabs exposed app security all by running a single command? You'd probably say, what's the catch? And for once, there isn't one. I give you Safeline. Safeline is a web application firewall that's perfect for Homelabbers. The semantic analysis engine is open source, so you can check the code yourself, and it has over 17,000 stars on GitHub and has been developed by a company called Chaitin for over a decade. It offers everything I've just described for free. Plus, if you want to beef up and gain extra security and features, Safeline offers 2 paid tiers. But for now, let me show you exactly what the free version can do for you in your home lab, and we'll take it from there. So, we're now going to SSH into our server. I'm going to type yes, and we're in. Now, as this is a brand new install, I'm going to run an update and upgrade command. For your scenario, you'll probably just want to do an update. Be careful with upgrade commands, simply because they can upgrade a lot of things on your system, including Docker. And if you're not got everything backed up, which you should have if you watch these videos, then you can do a little bit of damage there. So I'm going to run my update command and an upgrade command, which just basically is our brand new Ubuntu server up to scratch. And there are some restarts being deferred, so we're going to do sudo reboot now, and we're in. What is it? Well, Safeline is a web application firewall, a WAF. It's something that you put between Jellyfin and the web, or Emby and the web, or any other of your exposed services that you expose to the web. Now, a lot of people like me also have a lot of services that I don't expose at all, and they're not reachable by the web at all, and I wouldn't use it for that. Now, of course, its primary use is being a reverse proxy, and this can also replace your fail to ban. In fact, this would be fail to ban on steroids. Scrolling down, you'll notice it has 17,000 GitHub stars. It's been in development for over a decade by the company Chaitin. It has over 114 releases going all the way back to April 13th, 2023, and it has a lot of active development because its most recent release was last week. How does it work? Well, when legitimate users of your services come over the internet, or even attackers, malicious crawlers, or vulnerability scanners, they come through port 800443 and will immediately be met with Safeline. Safeline, using semantic machine learning, will analyze that traffic. Just like CrowdSec, if it's a known malicious entity, it will be blocked. However, something really cool about Safeline is that it doesn't have to be known. It will learn what the traffic is doing and decide on whether that's acceptable or not before passing it to your self-hosted services. The semantic analysis engine is open source, so you can go and check out all the code yourself, but with 17,000 stars, you can be sure this is pretty on the level. Looking at the commit history, you can see just how active this project is, and the consistent updates mean the team is constantly improving the web application file. You can see the frequent updates to the version.json file, which helps track changes and ensures everyone is on the same page. Safeline does have a free tier, and we're going to be exploring that today and showing you how all the features I've mentioned are available in that free version. However, if you want to beef up that protection or add extra features, you can certainly do so from as little as $10 a month. If you want to really go the extra mile and have enterprise level protection, you could go up to the $100 a month or $1,000 a year. I personally found it overkill for the Pro, but I'm certainly interested in the Lite. One of the things to note is that on the free version, you get up to 10 apps, which essentially, if you've used reverse proxies, mean 10 subdomains or 10 domains. That might not be enough for everyone, so you might find yourself having to pop up to the 20 on the Lite plan. That said, if you're only putting through your exposed services, you might not run into that limit at all, because I probably have 2 or 3 exposed services to the web that I would use this with. The rest are local access only, and therefore I don't need to. So you need to weigh up the pros and cons of each of those features. But let's get to installing. On the website, and I'll leave all links in the description below, we just click install. This gets us to the getting started. Essentially, the minimum dependencies are going to be a Linux machine with instruction architecture of 64 or ARM64, which is great if you've got ARM devices. Got 20, 10, 14 or above, software dependencies of Docker Post 2 or above, and then a minimum environment. So it needs at least 1 CPU core, 1 GB of memory, and 5 GB of disk space. Now you can actually run these individual commands here if you want to see each dependency and see if you've met them, and you can literally copy and paste those straight into your terminal. However, I know that I have. All we need to do here is basically run the automatic deploy command, and it needs to run as a root privilege. So we're going to run this with sudo. I'm simply going to pop sudo in there for the actual command, and then we get this Safeline WAF, and essentially it's like an installation wizard. It's basically saying, what do you want to do? Well, we want to install it, so we're going to hit number 1, followed by enter. This will then ask you, where do you want to install this? But in this instance, we're going to leave it default. It will then download all its required files and then install. And as you can see, it's pulling all these Docker containers and image. And just like that, it's completed. The important thing to note here is that it provides you a username and password here in the terminal, so that we want to make sure we take note of this, which we can change and should change after we log in. The other thing is that it tells you exactly where on the network it's installed to. In my case, that's 192.168.15.24 port 9443, and we're going to head there now. Notice it is HTTPS as well. It then provides you a software license agreement that I believe you should read in depth, and this is simply because it does make note that it will be sending some non-personal identifiable information back to Jade for you to look at. Now that depends on how you define personal, because what it says is that it will be saying it will not be collecting so-and-so, but the information collection during the installation of use of this software, it will collect some information such as the version of the software, language, IP address. For specific collections refer to this document. Go to the specific document, it'll tell you exactly what it's collecting. Now, it does state that it does collect user habits. Some people would define that as personally identifiable information. You must decide whether that's acceptable for you or not. Personally, I can't see anything here that I wouldn't mind sharing, simply because it's helping the program developers make this the best it can be. And it will also share all the malicious IP addresses, which, to be honest, is standard process. If you've ever heard or used CrowdSec, you know it does exactly the same. This is how it builds its database of all the bad guys. When you're happy with that, just click agree and start. Now, as we saw earlier, the default username was admin, and the default password it randomly generated was here in the terminal. Once you've logged in, you will be met by the Safeline Web Application Firewall main interface, main GUI. And I've got to say, this looks sleek. This is so much nicer to look at, and if you're a Homelabber like me, we love our nice, sleek user interfaces. It's got all the bits and bobs of basic information that you would expect. 4.0 errors, the error rates, 4.0 blocked, 5.0 errors and error rates, how many things it actually blocked in here, individual unique IP addresses, visitors, views, requests. It's like a blend of different tools that I would normally self-host individually. And you might say, Keith, well, I can host Grafana, I can host Prometheus, I can host a lot of different systems that can get this type of information, and I don't have to pay for it anyway. Note that we're getting this part for free anyway. And what I would say to you is, for the inexperienced or those looking for a click and forget, a set and forget type of environment, this checks all those boxes. So taking a look around the main user interface, we're on the traffic analysis tab at the moment. Now, this 3D spinning globe is not just here for effects. This will start lighting up as you get different requests or blocked connections in. And if you don't like the globe, you can actually go back to a traditional 2D map. You've got queries per seconds, request status, blocking status, and things like that. The reason why none of these are jumping right now is simply because I currently don't have port 18443 forwarded while I demonstrate this interface. Then you've got the security posture tab. Now this gives you information on any attacks that are occurring, how many allow and denies have occurred, rate limiting in effect, waiting rooms, anti-bots, challenges, and authorizations that you've created. Because you can actually create the cloak or web auth, or even replacing things like Authelia. It even has the ability to enable two-factor authentication and single sign-on as well. Now, a few extra bits of information are if you have the Pro license. And again, it does offer the Lite. I haven't made a distinction yet if the Lite will unlock any of these, but I have reached out to Safeline to see if they will provide me with a method of trying that out, because they have provided me with a Pro license, but I really wanted to see if I could get a Lite one, and the 7-day free trial is automatically Pro, not Lite. You also have an option of a data dashboard, which, by the way, is part of the Pro tools, but that data dashboard will give you specific insights on what's going on, but we can still obtain some of this information on the free. The next part of this is the applications, and applications essentially are your reverse proxy. You can serve up reverse proxy, static files, or redirect in here. And one of the really cool things is that it does, just like Nginx Proxy Manager or Caddy, allow you to obtain certificates inside the system, which, by the way, moved us straight down here to settings. And then if we scroll down, we've got SSL certs. Now, the only thing at the moment is that this requires the HTTP 01 method, which means that port 80 and 443 must be forwarded to enable you to do this. It doesn't allow DNS challenge. Now, it's not such an issue because if you're going to be using Safeline's WAF, then you are going to have port 80 and 443 forwarded anyway. So that's all good and proper. But I have made a list of feedback that I am sending back to Safeline to say that, you should be supporting certain things like DNS challenge. It just makes it easier for some different types of scenarios. But we'll come back to creating a certificate short. Now, your upstream essentially is whatever your self-hosted app is on the system, and we'll go into this in a little bit later. The next tab we have is attacks, and essentially this is going to list all the different things that are happening on the system that it considers to be an attack or an attempted hack. You have the semantic analysis tool where you can choose how strict you want this system to be. Personally, I'd prefer to have everything in strict mode. That can lead to some false positives, but noting on the main website, they have extraordinarily low false positive rates with their intelligence protection engine powered by machine learning. Safeline WAF achieves 99.995% detection rates with only 0.007 false positives. That is extraordinary. The intelligence detected over 10 zero-day vulnerabilities annually, surpassing traditional rule-based solutions through adaptive protection and behavioral analysis. That is something that you're not going to get with every other WAF out there. So, strict mode for me. You might want to keep it in balance mode, or if you have problems later, figure out what exactly is causing that and maybe switch out. Next is the allow and deny, where you can create custom rules for the system and what you want achieved. Personally, do I want search engine spiders? I'm not hosting any websites where I need that search engine optimization, and I don't really want those crawling across my self-hosted apps. Malicious JA4 fingerprints, however, would be beneficial. Note that we are enabling these options on the free version. And of course, enable deny rule for malicious IPs, which is on by default, and that is using their intelligence engine. Next, we've got HTTP flood with rate limiting and a waiting room, which I think is really cool. Rate limiting, as you may be aware, helps you block basic access limits, attack limiting, and error limiting. So you could use these tools to, for example, stop brute force attacks, and I'm going to show you more about this in a little while. The defaults are pretty acceptable, but we will be amending these in a bit. I recommend enabling them to get the most out of this one. The waiting room is a pro feature, and essentially directs excess requests to a waiting room during peak traffic periods, ensuring service stability and availability. Don't think this is going to be a thing you want to add for things like your media streaming services like Jellyfin or MB or Plex, but it's definitely good for anything else if your server is getting hit with a lot of traffic. Then we've got anti-bot, and it can issue challenges. You can turn this on for individual IP addresses, applications, and start and date times. One of the things that I have put in my feedback to Safeline, which I'll be providing to them, is that I believe the switch to local challenge, which essentially processes the information when it challenges these bots or attempts to challenge users to make sure they're actual humans, is that I think it should be local by default, enabling you to change that if you see fit. The other thing is that little icon next to it denotes it's a pro feature. Safeline promotes itself as a home lab first choice, and if that's the case, basics like local challenges on your home lab or in your home lab should be basically free. The next section is authorizations, where you can turn on your single sign-on center, set up all that information, and even enable two-factor authentication methods. Currently, it allows the account password, but you can configure other methods if you wish, which pushes us to the user management section, single sign-on, login configuration, and you can do quite a cool amount of different options in here. GitHub, OIDC, and LDAP. You can actually create a list of your own users as well and force them to use two-factor authentication. And then you come down to the settings menu itself, which tells you when these IP groups were last updated, fingerprint databases, and again, your certificates. But the other cool thing is that the default blocking pages you can change to whatever you want, including certain tips and messages you want displayed, what color those pages should be, and you can customize the HTML if you get the Pro features. Performance mode can also be changed with Pro features too, which essentially allows you to choose how you want the resources on the system used with Safeline's WAF. You can choose how often it cleans the data out of the system, and auto configuration if you have a multi-system setup. You can also enable notifications, which require at least the lite option, and you even have the system log address if you want. Something really important to a lot of people, and I know a lot of YouTubers were talking about this originally, was the lack of option of opting out of sharing your information. Now, the really cool thing about this recent update is that you can now choose to come out of the user experience program. And it says that after joining, we will get usage data related to specific features to improve the product strictly in accordance with that information collection statement, as we read earlier on. If you opt out, your Safeline will disconnect from our servers, except for necessary connections for the Safeline license. No other data will be transmitted. That might be something that home labbers will want to do. Now, you wouldn't want to pull out of the malicious IP pool because that is basically sending information back to them on bad guys. And you want to help contribute to that since you're using it yourself. But that's totally up to you and how you want to run this. But now I think we need to put a Docker container and expose that to the web, and also set up some port forwarding to see what we can do with this. So let's try that now. Okay, so before we move on, let's change the default username and password. So we're going to go down to settings, management. There's my admin user, 3 little buttons on the side, edit. Let's change that to create a random username, a random set of passwords, passphrases, and set verification. Let's give that a go, shall we? So force enable TOTP, confirm. So it's logged me out. So let's log back in, and it should force me to set up TOTP. Okay, so go on to my Vault Warden. Using my Vault Warden, I'm gonna set up my TOTP, which then gives me my two-factor authentication code. Gonna click bound and then enter that code. And that TOTP is now set up. So the next thing we're gonna want to do is head to our domain provider. Mine is dynu.com. Now, I could easily set up DDNS so it automatically updates my dynamic IP address to this service, but as this is for testing purposes, I'm not going to do that. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube showing how to do that anyway. So I popped in my IP4 address on here. I'm giving it about 4 or 5 minutes just so we can all synchronize up DNS wise. Essentially then I'm going to be putting in this domain name that I've got, and we're going to head over to Safeline application. We're going to click add application, putting in the domain name. And before we click submit and go ahead with this, by the way, I'm going to show you how to port forward. Every route is going to be different. I'm going to obviously be able to do it from my perspective, and then we'll get an SSL certificate. So jumping over to my phone, and I'll put the screen recording mode on, and I'll put the screen recording on. I use a Firewalla Gold SE. So yeah, so I'm gonna go to network, NAT setting, port forwarding, add in service 8 coming through BT Fiber, port 80 going to test server on port 80. For now, we'll allow all sources just to keep it simple. Same thing on 443, call it 443 on the test server, 443 all sources. So there's my port forwarding setup. Going back over to Safeline, we're gonna put the container address in here, 3000, application name. Oh, and make sure you take the S off there because it's a HTTP application. And then we're going to add a certificate as well. Add cert. This brings us to settings. Scroll down to add cert. Get a free certificate. Going to put in the domain name, and then we'll put my email address in, and we'll submit. That gets us our certificate. Back to the tab with the certificate on it. So that's great. And then I just need to make the adjustment because it is on the loopback address. There we go. And we get the green tick to say that's all working. And we'll call it Juice World. Correcting it's just space. So domain, ports being used, certificate, reverse proxy mode, the upstream where it is on the server, and Juice will submit. So there's our first application. Let's jump on the phone and do an outside connection. And there we go. On the domain, we refresh the page there. That's all working perfectly fine. If we go back to our statistics page, we will start seeing the numbers jump because of the requests coming in. But as I mentioned earlier on, you could use this even on the free version to replace your fail to ban by rate limiting, right? And we can simulate that by going on the phone and going to the login page, and you can type in any username and any password, and you could just keep guessing. At the moment it's not set up to do that. But if we go to HTTP flood rate limiting and click setting, on the bottom here it says error limiting. We click edit. Currently it's looking for 403, 404. But what we want to do is include 401 errors, which are unauthorized errors. And essentially, the way this works is this. How many errors are you willing to allow? How many password failures? So I don't know, you could drop that to 5. Over what duration? So if I say 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. And how long should we block someone for? 30 minutes is acceptable, but you could put something in there like 9999 and really block the hell out of them, right? So submit that. 1440 is the maximum time. That's the maximum block time. That's interesting. I don't know why it's set like that. That's going to be feedback as well. We've set that. So submit. So as you can see down there, IP that triggers 403, 404, or 401 errors 5 times within 120 seconds will automatically be blocked for 1,440 minutes. So on my phone, let's try this, right? So we've put in a random username, email, and we've put in password. Yeah, wrong. So that's 1, 2, 3. It's this is simulating a brute force. 4, 5. So we put another one in now, and the system basically has blocked us. All this text is basically saying not working. If we refresh the page and try and go back to the domain, we will now get the access forbidden block message by Safeline. And I think this looks amazing. This is not only really practical, but it looks great. I mean, on fail to ban, it literally, there is no screen. It just defaults to a can't be found page or whatever. This is awesome. This looks very professional, especially in a home lab. And again, bearing in mind, we've not upgraded. We're still on the free plan here. So home lab wise, this is exactly the type of thing I want protecting my services. And going back over to the Safeline screen here, we can see that we also have options for the attack limiting. So an IP that triggers an attack, being blocked 10 times within 60 seconds will be blocked for 30 minutes. We can edit that as well. Part of my feedback will be allowing us to ban for life, because I think we should be able to do that. And then basic access limit requests. Again, you can set this to kind of whatever you want. It's by default set to challenge, and I think that's perfectly acceptable to leave. This is basically saying how many times your web app is being interacted with on a request level. I mean, if you're streaming things like Jellyfin or Mediaplex, then you wouldn't want to lower that too much, because these requests can build up over time and you don't want disconnections to occur in your streaming apps. Okay, so now that's done, we'll submit that, and that's done. So essentially, if I go into flood, there you go. So you can see the block there. So it's under HTTP flood rate limiting, and we can see that IP address from my mobile phone, trying to access Juice World is blocked. The reason why is 5 requests within 120 seconds. Basic error limit was triggered. Action block 1,440 minutes. Blocked 4. start at 13:28 on the 16th of August. And conveniently, there is an unblock button there as well, or an unblock all, should you want to use that option. I think it's pretty good. I think it covers everything very well. And so far all I've done is show you the free option, and it literally does everything that you would want to do in a home lab environment. There's not much more you would want out of it. It's reverse proxying. It's actively blocking attacks and hacks. I've combined this with the fact that I have at the front of my network the Firewalla Gold SE, which is a intrusion detection and prevention hardware firewall router that can combined with this is great. On top of this, you can also activate your uncomplicated firewall if you wanted as well. So I think we've covered all the basics of the basic plan. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, now we've gone through all of this process, is find out what the lite license will do. And then we'll follow that by going up to the pro license and seeing what else we get. So I'm going to go up here to upgrade license. I'm going to select lite because that's the license we're going to try. I'm going to paste in my code I was provided by them, by Chaitin, and we're going to activate. And I suppose it's connecting to their servers, and it successfully applied our license. So I've got a 30-day lite license here. We can see that's now been changed up to the top there, lite. Okay, renew, upgrade, back to PE. Okay, so that's what that kind of looks like. Now, of course, one of the main reasons to upgrade to lite is for its Discord notification abilities, which we can do here. In the settings page, you scroll down to notifications, put the webhook address in that you've got from your Discord page or Telegram, and then click test. So we know we can get 20 applications at this point. Now, one of the things that we've got as part of our lite license is geo blocking, the ability to block entire continents or countries. So to enable that, all we've got to do now, since we've upgraded our license to lite, is go down to allow and deny, custom rules, add rules, deny. We can put it down to, I don't know, block Norway, match target source IP. The operator is going to be in geolocation, as you've got the little lite icon next to it. Then we select in the drop down, the little arrow next to all, and then kind of select where we want to go. Now, in our case, it's going to be Europe. So we're going to scroll all the way down. Norway. No offense, Norway. This is purely a demonstration. And then click submit. This now denies all IP addresses originating out of Norway, and you can use the same method to block any other geolocation you want on the lite. If I also block just temporarily the United Kingdom, for example, so if we do in geolocation, if we do Europe and we go down to United Kingdom of Great Britain, yeah, that'll do, and then we click submit. Oh, I want to say block, I can spell block UK. Now I want to quickly just go back to my HTTP flood and unblock my IP address that I already blocked earlier on after doing those login tests. Go back to the statistics page, and then if I open my phone up, put on the screen recording app. Okay, that's on. Go to Brave, refresh the page, and we'll still see that we have an access forbidden. That's literally just because we've blocked the United Kingdom, hence why it's access forbidden. If I go back onto the app here, you'll see it's not actually blocked due to hitting any specific conditions, but it is due to our allow deny custom rule of block the UK. Now, if I disable that rule temporarily and then go back on the phone app and refresh the page, you'll see it's now letting us in again, just to give you a demonstration of that. And again, these are the features that we can get on the lite. So they add a few bits more functionality. Now, Chaitin has given me a pro license as well. So I'm going to be able to check out all the features in the pro version as well and show you before we end the video exactly what we're getting in that as well. Okay, so going over to my Safeline, clicking on our lite, upgrade to the pro version, and then put the code in that they provided me. We're going to get more powerful cyber threat detection, per service and global configurations, advanced statistical analysis, customized blocking pages, upstream load balancing, and master slave node config for auto sync. Okay, so we are now running pro. Security posture, we're getting the real-time events we normally get. However, we now get access to the data down here, which is a little bit lacking at the moment, simply because we haven't had that much going on with the server. No current attacks, which is great. Hopefully that stays that way, although I doubt it. We also now have access to the data dashboard, and I think a dark theme is going to go nice. Validity valid forever. I assume that means it's data and history. And then a custom title, which currently says Safeline WAF Security Protection Monitoring Dashboard. That sounds quite long-winded, but we'll go with it. And we'll click Start. And this is the dashboard. Wow, this feels like one of those war game film style screens. If you ever watched the film, kind of like Cold War era, looking, waiting for the missiles to kind of launch. Okay, so this is kind of like real-time attacks that are being sustained against the server. So it's showing current date, current time, queries per second, IP address. Looks like you're in some sort of situation bunker under the White House. Going into applications, we have got pretty much the same type of stuff on the go here. However, we now have access to traffic analysis, which we can enable here, which records statistical data for the application. And security posture. This setting only affects the current application, will not alter the collection of global statistical data. So we can enable those. Applications advanced tab. So we've got the... Okay, so these are all the global versus local connections. Turn off old SSL ciphers. Again, I think something like that should be available in the free version. We can access the custom Nginx data. Again, that's going to go in feedback. We should be able to amend our Nginx config per device. Under rate limiting settings, we now have access to add rules on this screen in the HTTP flood. So what type of rules would we put in here? Ill path, challenge or block. Oh, look at that. So you can actually choose to block individual file types. We now have access to the waiting room. We can customize all our HTML pages, our block pages, create auto synchronizations. So essentially the Pro $100 a month is getting you all the unlocked dashboards, the customized application settings, the enhanced rule creation methods, the attack dashboard, but everything else as I've described it to you is available in the free or light version. So pretty much 90% of the video at the beginning was free, all the free stuff, which is a hell of a lot. And there's quite a lot of feedback, as you would have noticed now across the video, that I've noted down, which I've got as part of this video. And yeah, I just think, why not? Safeline provides a way to back up its configuration, and it's extremely rudimentary and basic because essentially it's copying the directory it's installed to, which not all programs allow. Now, you might want to do this before major version changes or just to save configurations, just in case you mess it up and you want to go back to later. That's absolutely fine. Whatever your reasoning is fine. You should always have backups of everything. Now, there is a website you can do this on, provided by Safeline, and it tells you how to do that. I'm going to demonstrate that for you now in a practical sense. First thing you want to do is change directory to the data Safeline directory, assuming you didn't create a custom one during the install process, otherwise you'll have to use that. So in our case, I'm already in there, but I'll just show you. It'll be change directory data Safeline. We're in the directory. The next thing you're going to want to do is Docker compose down, because Safeline runs in Docker containers, and to back up those successfully without corrupting databases and such, we need to close them. So we'll do that now. So that has stopped all the relevant Docker containers. The next thing we're going to want to do is create the backup directory. Now you might have a place that you already put your backups. If so, great, that's fine. You can amend it to that. But I'm going to create make directory, the P flag, which allows us to create multiple subdirectories. And I'm going to put that into backup Safeline today's date and time data with the / on the end. Then it's just a case of copying the directory Safeline into our data folder. That effectively has now saved Safeline, its configuration. That is a backup. That is a whole backup. The CPA flag stands for archive, which maintains attributes and permissions, so we don't have to worry about that causing us problems. The next step will be to restore the data, so I'm going to delete all that data at the moment, just to kind of give you an idea if that's that restore command or that new installation command. So I'm going to do sudo remove our data Safeline. I'm then going to create that directory again. And finally, I'm going to run the command, which essentially, if you look closely, is more of a flip of the data directories, which is sudo copy archive mode again from home backup Safeline, today's date and time. That's the folder that we created in data Safeline. The dot on the end of Safeline just means everything, including hidden files, and put all that into data Safeline with a / on the end. That effectively is the restoration of that backup. And if we do change directory into Safeline and ls, you'll see all our data is back, at which point we can do sudo docker compose up -d for the tap, and that starts our Safeline instance. Now, it shouldn't take too long, maybe about 30 seconds to get everything running again, at which point we can return to our dashboard and we're in, and Safeline is successfully backed up. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I've explored every possible avenue for you in terms of making those informed decisions on whether you want to use this in your home lab or not. I think it's definitely something that should be used on top of a secure home lab environment, no matter whether you have a hardware firewall like I do or not. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.